Hi there, this is Steve Gamache and welcome to episode 15 of my series on how to improve your social media videos. And today I thought we would take a look at a recap. We'll call it a halftime recap. It is football season, November. But a recap of the previous episodes and a quick summary of those so you can get caught up before we start the next series. So we're halfway through. And in episode 2 I gave you an example of lighting where I had a lot of things done pretty poorly. I had poor lighting, poor composition, and also the sound wasn't very good either. I was not using a auxiliary microphone. And in episode 3 I did a review of that to point out some of those features in that video and asked you to take a look at what you thought was distracting or detracting from that video. And episode 4 was first lighting episode, and we talked about backlighting, having a bright light or scene behind you, and how the camera and still and video cameras handle that situation and why you should avoid that situation, and how easy it is to maybe turn that light source and point it on the other side so it faces you instead of you in front of the light source, and drastically different lighting as you will see in the video. In episode number 5 we talked about composition, and in many cases putting yourself off center on the frame, especially if you've got one of these wide high-def cameras like this one. And we talked about the rule of thirds with the grid, so flashback on that. In episode number 6 we talked about lighting, specifically the color temperature of light. So we compared tungsten or regular incandescent lighting or halogen lighting, which has a warmer color tone, to lighting from daylight sources like actually sunlight or other daylight sources like this auxiliary light I have with those compact fluorescent bulbs, but they are a daylight balanced bulb. And this room, it's a little bit of a mixed lighting in this room because I've got incandescent lighting or tungsten lighting behind me and actually some fixtures on the walls that have orangish, yellowish covers over them, so that even makes that light more orange. So I've got more of a blue light, relatively speaking, coming from this add-on light, and then I've got more of an orangish, reddish type light coming from the tungsten light in the room itself. So we talked about those lighting temperature differences. In episode 7 we talked about the System Pro Cool Light 3-in-1 system from ProMaster, and that's what we're using right here. And we'll talk more about that, but that's a really nice light. We talked in episode 8 about light stands and tripod or video stands. So you'll need something to set your camera on, whether it's a small desktop stand, countertop stand, or a larger one where I'm doing now. I do not have my camera on a countertop. It's on a tripod about 4 or so feet away from me in the kitchen area, pointing me into the great room. So putting your camera on a tripod or a video tripod will give you a lot of options about where to film. Also, if you're going to have a light, you need a stand to put it on. So we talked about some stands. And again, by the way, on my website at sgphotography.com, in my 30 videos in 30 days blog, I've got all kinds of tips. I've got a summary of where you can buy some of these items, online links, and prices for these things. In episodes 9 and 10 and 11, we did a 3-part mini-series on the Kodak ZI-8, which I'm using right now for this video. So please see those episodes for in-depth information. And I added on a couple of additional items about the still photography capabilities of the ZI-8 and the secure digital memory cards and the speed function of those. We talked about a class 6 being desirable, and so that was episode 12. And then in episode 13 we talked about using a makeup mirror to reflect the image of the camera back to you so you can see what you're doing while you're recording. And then in episode 14 we talked about taking that on the road, if you will, and using a smaller version of that with a clamp system to clamp that to the tripod. So even if you're on a tripod like I am right now, you can have your mirror reflecting back the image. And I do right now have that mirror showing me what the camera is seeing, so I can position myself and check the lighting and such. And man, does that work really well. So these are the first 14 episodes, and this is episode 15, the recap. Stay tuned for the second half coming up. Again, check out my website, sgphotography.com, for information on these products and links. And then also go to YouTube at youtube.com/user/SteveGPhotography for my channel on all these videos. Thanks.